or murder. Okay, it's unclear where the children's parents were or who the subject of the warrant was. Joining us right now with reaction is former Republican candidate for governor of Minnesota, Army vet and businessman Kendall Qualls. Kendall, good morning to you.
Steve, thank you so much for having me on. And Steve, I want to acknowledge Alpha News for breaking this story, and also my wife who wrote the commentary that accompanied that video.
Right, and your wife Sheila wrote an op-ed. It's called "Grooming Children for a Life of Crime." When I first saw that video, I knew they were trying to execute a warrant, but the overriding feeling I had was, this is just so sad.
Yes, and you know, unfortunately, Steve, this is not an anomaly. This has been going on in our black communities now across the country for decades. And in fact, what I call it, these are the great-grandchildren of the LBJ welfare program, and it should be a wake-up call for all of us, especially in the black community. We need to get back to the basics. We didn't used to live like this. We didn't used to raise our children like this. And this is from years of listening and following the progressive leadership on the left, putting these programs of incentivizing women to have children out of marriage. And it's been going on far too long, and it's time to get back to the basics.
Right, and while the video is disturbing and it's super sad, you say this kind of action is also preventable.
Yeah, it's absolutely preventable. So again, you think about it. So when I was 5 years old, Martin Luther King was just assassinated. 80% of the black families were two-parent families. 80%. Today, in our lifetime, it's gone from 80% to 80% fatherless homes without one initiative to try to return it back to where it was. Yeah. And it's time to do that and get that focus back on marriage and making marriage cool again and responsible having kids after marriage.
But, you know, Kendall, when we see the child disrespecting the cops in such a profound way, it's not that different than what we've seen on the streets of American cities over the last couple of years.
Well, here's the biggest issue on this, Steve. You're absolutely right. This is probably the biggest perpetrated lie that's happened in our country in the last, say, 5 years or so, that they want to blame the whole disparities that we have in law enforcement and academia and obviously in corporate America and all these different disparities that we have between black and white on systemic racism, white privilege. That's an abject lie. It's really focused on getting off of the rails of the basics of humanity.
Right.
Raising children in the nuclear family and reinforcing that.
The Minneapolis Police Department gave us a statement. They said, among other things, officers understand that we meet many people during some of the worst moments of their lives. In these situations, professionalism, care, and empathy are our leading and guiding principles. And they certainly,
It's that same thing you said
they were very professional. The cops were very professional from the video we saw.
Well, absolutely. Look, Steve, we started a nonprofit last year called Take Charge Minnesota, TakeChargeMN.com, and it was really focused on this, that the promise of America works for everyone, regardless of race, regardless of social standing, and that the focus around this, especially in the black community, needs to get back to faith, family, and education, getting a better education for our kids, and we can get on the building blocks of this. This needs to be the #1 focus in the black community for the next 5 years, of focus on returning back to the basics of the nuclear family.
All right. Kendall Qualls, thank you, sir, for joining us today from Minneapolis.